Having a scale is critical to brewing good coffee at home. If you have a good grinder and a good pour over set, or you have a good espresso machine and a good grinder to go with it, if you don't have a scale, you're going to be missing out on consistency. Putting the same amount of coffee in based off of the water that output that you want is critical to having and knowing your shots of espresso, but it's also critical into dialing in the correct grind setting on your grinder for whatever brew recipe you have. Today I have a new contender for the scale market, and I think this is one worth listening to. For the longest time, and by the longest time I mean about 5 to 8 years, depending on it, I have been using a trusty old Acaia scale. Acaia has been known in the coffee market for a long time. They have the Acaia Pearl, which comes in about $150. It's a Bluetooth scale and does a super great job of being consistent. I've had that for 8 years or so. And then this is the Acaia Lunar, which is their $250 espresso scale that I've had probably for about 5 years. And I've used both of those on a daily basis. My Acaia Pearl is currently sitting at work. And this was by far the most recommended scale I've always said, because you'll never need to upgrade it from it. It's going to be very consistent. You're not going to have any issues. It's very responsive and very quick. The scale market has kind of made some cheaper versions of it, but they haven't made anything very innovative in a while. Fellow products have made the tally scale recently, which added quite a few features, including a brew ratio on there, so it'll automatically tell you the amount of water you need if you put in 18 grams of coffee based on the brew ratio you want in order to make a good pour over related to it. This scale, however, is a new one to the market, and I think it's worthwhile on listening to the opinion and my thoughts on this. This is the MantaBrew scale. This came out on Kickstarter and it just recently got shipped to the backers a month or two ago. And this has 2 different modules to it, which means this can come into 3 different packages and 3 different price points. You have Module A, which would be about $150, Module B, which would be $189, or 2 modules, which is $250. It has packed with a lot of features. I want to go over those, and I want to say which module I think you should get and if you should buy this over Acaia and why you should consider buying this over the Acaia. So first off, I'm going to cheat a little bit and I'm going to use their website just to go over some of these modules. I've used this scale for about a month now. I have a lot to say about it, but I have not used this scale a lot in every single mode, so I'm not super familiar with every single mode and every single thing that it can do, but I am familiar enough to give a good enough opinion on it. So first off, one of the biggest drawbacks with the Acaia scale is you either get this one right here, which is perfect for espresso because it fits on a drip tray. However, if you brew something like a large pour over with a carafe, oftentimes that carafe is going to cover a screen. Hence, you should buy something like the Acaia Pearl, which is a lot larger of a scale, which works great for pour overs. But that's too big to fit on an espresso tray. That's one of the things I think the MantaBrew comes in handy, is because of these 2 different modules, you can actually take the screen and completely remove it from the scale. Meaning you can stick this to any magnetic surface and you can view the scale without it being, you can view the module without it being attached to the scale, meaning if you use this scale to make a pour over coffee, you can kind of put this anywhere if it's a larger carafe and you don't have to worry about it. You can also put this on an espresso machine in different ways, and that's kind of fun too as well. So I want to go over the first module, and I'm going to go ahead and connect it to the machine. And it's a pretty easy process. You simply stick it on there. It's connected. It's good to go. You hold the power button. You can see the module now. I don't know how well that's focused with it. There we go. And you can see now that it's going to adjust as soon as I put some weight on there. Sorry if this isn't the best. I'm not the greatest at doing these kind of things. But anyway, wireless scale, wireless module on there. And this module A, so the $150 one, comes with a few different modes here. It has the weighing and timer mode, which is simply just weighing out your coffee and clicking the power button to start a timer. It has a pour over mode, espresso mode, and flow practice mode. You can look at all of these things a little bit more on their website. Module B, which I think is the one that a lot of people are going to be most interested in. And that has the weighing and timer mode, it has the pour over mode, espresso mode, flow practice mode, coffee and water ratio mode, so this is the same thing that the fellow Tally has, and it has some advanced ones, a brewing game, a beginner mode, and a champion mode. And I think this is a very, very interesting because this allows a lot more to do with the scale. It also has this little flip out screen here, so you get that kind of analog screen where it has like those little circle indicators indicating the size of it. There we go. There, now it's focused. So you can see how there's a ton of little dots right there indicating that circle, but also over here you have a much more kind of OLED style LED, LCD, whatever kind of screen that there is right there, and that kind of gives it a little bit better of some results. And there we have it. This works out incredibly well. It's super easy to use, and overall I like all the features on here. When you're looking at choosing a module, I know I didn't go super deep into it, and that's because I really want to push you toward the website, because I don't think I can handle and give you everything that this can do on a very accurate level in comparison to the website unless I use it extensively for months, because I think the more you use this machine, the more you're going to learn more about it, and it's a scale that can really grow with you rather than being a one and done scale, kind of like the Acaia, where it's straightforward and easy. It's not as straightforward and easy to use. There's a lot of menu hopping around, but when you do that, you get a lot into it. When you look at the size of the MantaBrew and the build quality of the MantaBrew, which is what I want to go into now, you have that Acaia right on top of it, and you can kind of see how basically it's the same width and height, but it's the same height, but it's about an inch wider. And one of the things that I love about that is because one of the things with the Acaia, they sell a plate holder on top of it, a portafilter holder, which basically widens it, allows you to get 2 cups in it. So if you ever do this thing called a 1-in-1, which is splitting a shot of espresso and making a straight shot and a milk drink by pulling one double shot, or one 18-gram shot or 20-gram shot, whatever, you need a wider scale to be able to fit 2 cups on it. The Acaia Lunar sometimes works, but it depends on the cup really, versus this is going to be wide enough where you can put a portafilter on it and balance it a little easier, or put 2 espresso cups on it as well. That's one of the things I love about it. The build quality of it, the finish of it seems very, very similar to the Acaia. There is like a little gap on the top, and the plate is, the weighing plate is on top rather than it covering all the sides like the Acaia Lunar does. See how it's kind of, hopefully that makes a little bit of sense. Scales are kind of a complicated thing to review a little bit. It has your little heat pad, and it has those 2 modules. So I want to go over a few of the main drawbacks between this and the Acaia. One is when you look at the Acaia, and this is going to be blinking a little bit on the screen because of the frame rate of the camera, but if you see that there are like kind of longer prongs to represent all of the numbers on that. When it sees Acaia, it's going to do the same thing for numbers. It just does that. There we go. So you can kind of see how all those numbers have like 6 or whatever little lines in it, and I find that incredibly easy to read. However, when you get the modular system of the MantaBrew, you have a lot of dots making up those numbers, which is a lot less of my favorite thing, and it's a little bit harder to read. It's not difficult to read, but when you're used to Acaia, it's kind of hard not to be biased toward that. It is very weird to get used to the just quick tapping of the Acaia versus the holding to tap on the MantaBrew, so you kind of have to hold that power button for it to turn on. And the Acaia is just a tap. The Acaia is a double tap to turn off, and it's a hold to turn off the MantaBrew. It's just a different thing that is tough to get used to. If you want a simple workflow that's going to be similar to the Acaia, you're going to want this $150 Module A system. If you want more advanced features, which I would strictly say it's probably going to be the nicest for pour over, I would say that Module B would be the way to go. I honestly love having both of them, because sometimes I just like the ease in use of Module A, where it's just simplified, not a lot going on, versus Module B has a lot more going on to it and a lot more modes on it. But I do love the fact that it is able to remove the screen. So I do like the screen a little bit better on the Acaia, but I do like all the modes and the features that you can get with the MantaBrew. I love the width of the MantaBrew. I would say maybe the build quality would be a little bit better on the Acaia, but that's not saying that the MantaBrew is bad by any means. One of the things I did notice is I often pick up my scale like this right here. Sorry, there's a lot of beeps going on because I keep clicking on and off these little modules. So I usually pick it up like that, and what I've noticed is when I do that same thing with the MantaBrew, I'm often picking it up and moving that module with it and breaking it off. That's just a thing to get used to. But the hugest drawback, and the one thing that I wish MantaBrew would have included, is the MantaBrew does not have Bluetooth capability. And for, I would say, 90% of the users, Bluetooth capability is not a big deal. If I use the MantaBrew in the office, I don't need Bluetooth by any means. I use Bluetooth for my Acaia because sometimes I can't see the screen if I do a pour over on my Lunar, so I pull out my phone, which I can Bluetooth it to my phone and I can read that off my phone. However, that's not like a big deal when it comes to it. However, it is a big deal if you are into espresso and you want to use something like the press sensor or smart espresso profiler or a decent espresso machine, all of which utilize the scale in conjunction with pressure readings to give you statistical analysis of your shots that you pull, but you need Bluetooth required to do that. So if that's something that you want to get into, you can't really use the MantaBrew with that because it is going to draw back and not give you the results that you ultimately want with that. However, if that's not the thing for you and you don't see yourself doing that, I kind of really like the MantaBrew. Yes, the screen might not be as perfect as the Acaia Lunar, but it does have that nice module feeling where I feel like I can actually use this and could recommend this for pour over and it do incredibly well. But then I could also recommend it for espresso and it can be really well. And I don't really see any other great, I have not used personally another great scale that can do that with all the features built in like the MantaBrew, which is one of the reasons why I think it sticks out above all of the competitors in that market. If you made it this far, please like and subscribe. That really helps me produce more content. I got some things you aren't going to want to miss out on. Also, I have a Patreon account. Feel free to hop on down there and go ahead and fund me on Patreon where I give away random little things. And I got a lot of stuff that I want to give away soon, and I need more Patreon followers to do it. So that is what it is. But the MantaBrew does a really good job that I feel like it can do the two things that I need both of my Acaias for, so it kind of rules out having two scales on that. It can do everything the fellow Tally does. The screen's not as nice as the Tally, but it is a small factor where you can use it for an espresso machine, and the Tally is just, in my opinion, too large for that. So that is the MantaBrew. I'm going to give you a link on the website so you can read more about all those features, and you can kind of see that screen a little bit better in different plays on how it can do different things. But honestly, if you're looking at buying it, I would probably lean toward that $89 price point where you're getting Module B, because that gives you everything Module A can do and a lot more function with it. If you want more streamlined, Module A is good to go. Or if you really want all the options of having it more streamlined, but also a little bit more advanced, then you can get both of those for $250. This is dust, water, and splash resistance. Obviously, that's something to take lightly. You don't submerge your scale in water, and you'll be fine. So if you have any questions of the scale, you want to know more about it, let me know in the comments below. But thanks so much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.